you very much, Sarah. And she nailed it. This is exactly what we're going to be talking about today is Facebook Live and how you can use it for your library. We will discuss things like choosing a social media platform in the first place, and then talk about some of the details of using Facebook Live, as well as some of the ways you can better market it and handle some of your assessment. But before we get into any of that, we should do actual introductions. My name is Tristan Daniels. I am the Academic Engagement Librarian at Coastal Carolina University.
And hello, I am Christy. I do the marketing here at Kimball Library at Marketing at Coastal Carolina University. And I am going to be talking about the social media side of everything and what we need to do ahead of time to make sure that everything is as successful as possible. So as we move into it, I guess the biggest thing that we're going to need to talk about is what you need going into it. So there are 3 things that you kind of need to have an idea about, even if you don't have all the details worked out. So you would need to have an idea of what you would like to do, who you would like to reach, and where you want to end up. So what is your goals of this Facebook Live production? So in your audience, the more defined you can be, the better. The message that you're going to try to tell them, you need to have an idea of what your goal is. Is it educational? Is it entertainment? Are you building a community? Kind of have an idea of what you want to come out of this, and your platform. So this is where you're going to be reaching them. Where are they hanging out, virtually or physically? Where is the audience you want to reach on a daily basis? So all 3 of these inform on how you choose or how you interact with the other one. So moving on, we have, you'll need to know your audience demographics to make the best choices. And that's going to tell you, really, again, it's going to help you define your audience, who you're trying to reach, which patron group are you aiming for. And yes, you may say, well, I want to reach all of my patrons, but not all of your patrons like the same things in the same manner. So the more defined you can get, the better it's going to be overall. So different patron groups are on different social media platforms, and they use those platforms in different ways and for different purposes. Snapchat and Instagram are especially popular among your college-age students. Instagram, you have kids on there right on up to, it kind of pans out around your 30s and 40s. So it's really important to know who you're trying to reach, and that's going to help you decide what's best for you and your project. Okay. So your audience, a little bit farther into that, how do you know who your audience is on Facebook? So for Facebook, this means you want to look at your insights. This is found on your library's main Facebook page. If you click on there, you'll see over to the left, this is Kimball Libraries, and it says Insights. And if you click on See All, what's going to pop up is a whole host of numbers. It's going to give you metrics for everything. But it'll also tell you who your fan base is, as you see here on the right, how we're broken out and demographically. So get to know your community, who's on there, what's their age range, what's their interests, what do they want from their social media channels, what are they expecting to see. So your audience is going to help you determine which social media platform you want to use and how you're going to tailor that content to reach them. Is it going to be text, videos, live performances? It's all your choice. So which social media platform you use is going to determine your different information formats. So each one is better for particular things. All allow some form of text, pictures, videos, but in varying formats. So YouTube is obviously videos. LinkedIn is going to be more professional. So it's just an idea, have an idea of where you're going with it. The 3 big ones is Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Twitter, you want to be short and witty as much as possible. You're limited to 280 characters. That's not a lot. And then most people, they don't even reach that. Most tweets are 33 characters. Even after Twitter bumped up how many you could put on there, it still averages 33 characters. Videos are limited to just over 2 minutes. So it's very small. Instagram, You want to post pictures of people, less graphic designs, be more fun, less educational here. We tried to do, well, we hosted an Instagram live of the Christmas party here on campus, video of the performances and the food and everything that was happening, and that did really well. We tried the makerspace intro there, and it just didn't have the same engagement level. So that's something to keep in mind of what they're expecting on Instagram. All right, next slide. And Facebook, of course, this worked best for us. It's a much broader platform with a much broader audience, and it allows for a lot of content variation. You got over 63,000 characters, comments, hashtags, 60 plus minutes of video you can post. Facebook Live will automatically post as a video when you're done. So it's got lots of pluses, and this is why we chose it. So we chose Facebook Live because while everyone is welcome, our audience is most specifically our students. And our goal was to create a sense of community for them, even though they were no longer on campus. They had all gone, they're spread out all over the country during the pandemic. So we wanted to create a place that they felt like there was a community they could hang out. And Facebook just offered the best for that. And while our biggest student audience wasn't on Facebook, it did allow, we did have a base started and we could build from there. So this meant we needed to interactive engagement, which Facebook is great at. It allows for live interaction with comments, continued interaction with comments that come later as the video, after the video posts, and even after the session has ended. Facebook Live allows for the most flexibility in presenting. You can have multiple presenters. You can include pre-recorded segments. You can stream video games, which we've started doing. It just has a lot more flexibility there as far as engagement is concerned. And guests can even view live streams without having a Facebook account. They can go directly to the live stream URL. You can post the URL in your other social media platforms, on your website, anything like that. So when we did our poetry and prose, which is usually a live event, students' parents were able to view their students presenting their original works for the first time, and that was very popular. Okay.
Oops. All right, so hopefully everyone knows why we've gotten to Facebook Live. Christy kind of walked us through trying to figure out our audience and trying to understand which social media platform would be best, and then getting us all the way from just Facebook to specifically Facebook Live. If though you're going to do a live broadcast, it's important for you to try to decide upfront what your content is going to be, right? What it is you're actually doing when you're live. Fortunately, there are all kinds of options. You can go with something that's incredibly informative, like interviews or discussion panels with experts in their field. You could do something that's a little more casual, a chance for people just to come together over a particularly enjoyable hobby, like video games or board games or role playing, something like that. You could also do something that's a little more skill oriented, where you're trying to educate people about a particular ability or task, like music or painting or cooking or research. You can also do something that's a little more cultural. It's a chance for the community to kind of come together and maybe showcase their own work, where you can have poetry readings or screenplay readings or that sort of thing. Basically, anything that you would do in person is something you can usually do online. The goal of your content is to make sure that it includes as many as possible of 5 common traits, because if you watch these videos, these are all links, by the way, so once you get the presentation after this, you can click any of these and it'll be take you directly to the video showcased here. But all these videos have in common 5 specific traits. They have a strong personality that's attractive to the audience. There's some element of exposition where they're providing some information or a chance to learn something. There's a shared experience, so the people who are watching this video live, they're going to have a kind of experience, develop a community within themselves that other people outside who are watching it, say, I always say post-mortem, after the live experience is over, they're not going to really have that same experience. There's also a sense of chance, a sense of chaos to a lot of these videos, where something might happen unexpected, both for the audience and for the people running the live broadcast. And of course, the biggest probably most important aspect of a live broadcast is a sense of interaction. Even if it's an interview where it's very clearly one person speaking with a second person, there's always a sense that the audience can at least be interacting with each other, if not also interacting directly with the host. Those are the things you want to make sure you focus on. And we give some examples here you want to think about. For example, a lot of librarians, sometimes will work behind the scenes on things. Well, if you're doing a live broadcast, you have to make sure that your specific personality comes out, because viewers aren't there to see librarian number 42, they're there to see you specifically. Likewise, if we're talking about the interaction aspect of it, by creating a live content, we allow people to interact, to provide an outlet for them to express themselves and connect with other people who have similar feelings or even dissimilar feelings, but allow them to express it in a live environment. That's where these kinds of content can really help out, because you can have these kinds of traits that allow people to connect in ways online that they would normally be connecting in person, but for one reason or another can't quite do that. So hopefully this gives you some ideas on what kind of content you can view. And like I said, later on, as you get the presentation, you can actually click any of these links and it will take you directly to the video so you can watch a live example. Some of these are done by professionals where their living is live broadcast. Some of them are done by professionals where perhaps their job is painting, but they're being filmed live by a library. And there's one that I think is also a university as well as up here. For some of our live content, we did some things like research and write, where we had a chance to do what would normally do like an instruction session, where we have people come by and librarians assist them with researching while our writing team assists them with writing. We can do something like that online as well. We're practicing for that right now. And then we also had the poetry and prose reading, which Christy mentioned earlier. This is something that we would normally have done live, but instead we did a pre-recording where we had everyone speak, gave them a chance to kind of practice it, and then we premiered the video live with the poets in the audience. That way the audience was able to interact in a live manner with each other and the poets to the reading, and then ask questions and things like that afterwards. That's your content though. Content, in my opinion, is probably pretty easy to come up with. You just kind of pick something that you're interested in and then make sure you hit some of those 5 traits. The more technical aspect of it is the production, trying to understand what equipment you're going to need and trying to understand the actual buttons you're going to need to click. So let's get into that. For your equipment, it may seem a little obvious, but you need a computer, a webcam, a microphone, and you need some kind of lighting. That's it. Fortunately, if you're tight on a budget, or if you're not really sure how long you're gonna be able to stick with this, if you have a smartphone, you're good to go. Your smartphone can act as your computer because it can access Facebook Live. Your smartphone most likely has a webcam and a microphone built into it, and it probably even has some extra lighting you could use. If not, just make sure you're in a well-lit area, and you can be good to go. Now, that said, you will eventually want to invest in the webcam, the microphone, and the lighting. And to do that, you can actually check out these 6 links here at the bottom. We've got PC Magazine, PC Gamer, PC World, CNET, Tech Radar, and Tom's Guide. And again, these are all links, hence the little globe icon down there at the bottom. When you get the presentation, you can click any of these and it'll take you directly to the website, so you don't have to worry about trying to track it down. Each of these places will have annual lists of the like top 10 webcams, top 10 microphones, and so forth. And my particularly favorite thing about them is that they give you item profiles. So not only do you know the pros and cons of each gear or each piece of gear that they discuss, they will also tell you which market or which broad types of broadcasts that particular webcam or that particular microphone is particularly good for. So it's really good. It'll help you, like, this is an entry-level budget. This is great for audio recordings, or this one's great for multiple recordings. We have multiple speakers, that kind of thing. They'll let you know that. That'll get you going once you want to get a little more professional quality broadcast going. To start with, don't worry, if you have a smartphone, that's really all you need. Now let's talk about the actual button clicking you're gonna have to do. First thing you need is a Facebook page. That may seem a little obvious, and I imagine a lot of us already have a Facebook account, and perhaps even a Facebook page for your library. If not, though, when you get the presentation, you can click these links and it will walk you through creating a Facebook account and walk you through creating a Facebook page. Originally, we were also going to talk about things you should do to spruce up your Facebook page, but that is a presentation in and of itself. The other thing you may want to consider production-wise is third-party software, because when you have third-party software, it'll give you numerous additional features. Because if you are working with Facebook Live by itself, all you need is a smartphone. That's really all you have to go live. However, if you want to have things like multiple video and audio feeds, or remote feeds, or advanced chat features, or visual overlays, scene transitions, those kinds of things that make it look like a professional broadcast, or at least a really high quality one, a little more than someone just popping out their phone and talking, then you want to use a third-party software. Zoom is probably the cheapest because it's free, and it's the easiest to use. It may also be the least feature intensive though. OBS and Streamlabs are also free. They are, however, much more feature rich, I would say. Between the two of them, OBS is a little easier to use initially than Streamlabs, and Streamlabs has a little more support than OBS does. That said, they're both very similar. It's kind of like I was going to say Coke and Pepsi, but people tend to have strong views on that. At least I know I do. So they're both kind of the competitors in the primary competitors in the free broadcast market. Personally, I prefer Streamlabs, that we use OBS here just because it's a little more comfortable with the team as a whole. Again, these are links, hence the little globe icon. You can click those and you'll be taken directly to the Zoom website or the instructions for using Zoom with Facebook Live, or you can go to the instructions for using OBS with Facebook Live or Streamlabs with Facebook Live. Again, these are things you don't need, but things you want to consider as you get a little more involved with Facebook Live. Now you may notice here there is a giant empty space that says going live. And that's because there was a video here that would show you how to go live. Unfortunately, GoToMeeting does not like that video, but that's not too unfortunate because it means you are going to get to see me go live right now on Facebook. So you go to Facebook, you log in, you click pages, you go find your library. I'm actually not going to use our library page because it'll be a little awkward if I just broadcast this flat out on the library with no warning. So instead, I'm going to go to my personal page. I'm going to click that. And I click create live. Give it a moment to process. All right, right up here, we've got a couple different options. If I'm using third-party software, I definitely want to click this. But right now, I'm just going to do it as simple as possible. I'm going to go ahead and use camera. It's going to ask me if I can access, or if Facebook can access my microphone and my camera, and I'm going to say yes. And it's going to try and find them. And look at that, it found my video camera and it found my mic. And over here, we've got, it's wanted to confirm I'm sharing this to the page, right? I'm not sharing this to my personal page. I'm sharing this to like the business page of T Daniels. I'm gonna put in a video or a title. Let's see, there we go. And then we put in a description. Always make sure to put in a description. The description is actually more important than the title because the description will show up repeatedly throughout Facebook. The title may not. If I could spell words equally, yeah, there we go. Talking and typing is not a skill set of mine. There we go. We have a generic description up there. If I want to do a test broadcast, I could actually click this and nobody else would see it live. I'm not too fond of that because it's really hard to test a live broadcast if you can't then go out and view it as a viewer would, but you can still do that. And of course, there's a bunch of other options here, but I'm not going to go into. I'm just going to go ahead and go live by clicking go live. And we get the little warning indicator down here that says live. If any of you have ever seen like a actual broadcast studio, they tend to have stuff like this set up. At least they did when I was around there. Get rid of this, and then you can scroll back up the top. You can actually see what your live feed will look like. You get a couple of data readouts here. I'm not too tech savvy enough to know what those are. I just make sure that they don't look bad. And then over here, you'll get comments that you can respond to live. Depending on the software you're using, there may be a delay between what you're doing and what the audience sees, up to about 20 seconds, especially through Zoom. But yeah, that's it. That's how you go live. And don't worry if you weren't able to keep up with all that. This is mostly a demonstration of how easy it can be, how simple it can be once you get a little bit of practice with it. We will be more than happy to include the original video before it was deleted in the presentation that we made available afterwards. So I'm gonna go ahead and end this video. Bam. Click end, and it ends. Takes it a second. Oh, and look right there, we have a bunch of different videos. So if you do something really horrible and don't want anyone to see it, well, you were live, someone may have seen it, but you can always delete the page, no one has to remember it, or you can go ahead and trim it, you can make a clip from it, or you can just go ahead and view the post and it'll be automatically uploaded for your audience. And if I can navigate back, whoops, not that one, this one, here we go. Okay, so that is how you actually go live. Now that we've talked about actually going live, we need to consider what the performance is, what you're going to be doing when you finally go live. Excuse me. So when you go live, there are 5 things you should keep in mind for a good performance. And this comes from someone who is good at pretending to be extroverted and good at pretending to be a really good performer, not someone who's naturally this way. So again, if I can do these things, I promise you, you can as well. 5 things you want to keep in mind. The first one is to practice ahead of time. That one may seem a little on the obvious side of things, but to give a specific example, when you are practicing with this kind of software, you want to make sure that you practice the same day, within a few hours of your broadcast, because especially Facebook will have numerous updates that they don't always inform the users about. And because of that, or maybe they inform them, but they're buried behind some notification somewhere. And because of that, you could run into technical problems the day of that you were not running into the day before. So that's always a thing to do. Just make sure to practice ahead of time, especially if you're going to have guest speakers or anything like that. Make sure their audio setup is correct. You want to test those things out in advance. If you doing that will just make your actual live stream a lot easier, a lot smoother. The smoother your live stream is, your broadcast is, the easier it is to perform up to your standards. Another thing to keep in mind is to set the mood and tone. This is actually kind of the same thing you would do if you're doing a library instruction or anything like that. You want to make sure the way you look, sound, and your background match the tone of your content, whatever that is, because viewers will notice. The example I always like to use is that if you are giving a live instruction session about researching business statistics or something of that sort, it does not help to be wearing a tattered Hawaiian shirt with a sombrero or something. Like, that's just not what you want to do. It's not going to fit the tone of what it is you're talking about. You want to wear something that looks a little more professional if you're talking about more professional content. However, keep in mind, if you are being more casual, if you are, say, playing a video game and it's a horror video game like we're doing for this month, there's nothing wrong with wearing a Halloween costume while you're playing. That will fit the tone. That will let your viewers know what it is you're talking about and how to react to that particular broadcast. Another tip for a good performance is not neglect your guests. Just like you would do at a party or you would do during an instruction session, you want to make sure that you keep everybody involved, that you're talking with your guests. If they talk to you, if they talk in chat, you want to respond back to them. One of the differences, though, to a live broadcast is that there are points where, since all eyes are on you and maybe nothing is happening, you will need to explain your thought process, maybe just narrate what's happening. Especially if there's technical difficulties that you're trying to resolve live, you want to tell them, oh, wait, this thing broke. Let me see if I can click over here. Oh, wait, it's loading. Maybe I can try this other thing. You want to walk people through. One of the most awkward things for a live broadcast is to watch the host sit there and not say anything and just stare at the screen for 30, 40 seconds. It's very awkward. So make sure to always be walking your audience through the process, letting them understand what's going on. You also want to plan for problems. By having a rough plan of what you're going to be doing during your performance, maybe the highlight, you will have a much easier time when things finally do go wrong. So for instance, one of the examples we have up here, the video actually titled Things Go Wrong. I am trying to show off how to use Journal Finder, one of our new software over here at the library. And I knew up in advance, there are 3 things I want to show them. If everything else fails, I want to show them these things. I'll do the best I can to get them there. So as I'm trying to show other things off and they start breaking, I'm like, you know what, it's okay. I'll just skip this and I'll go to the next thing. And then I show that off. I'm like, okay, let's try this other cool thing I wanted to show. Nope, that's not working either right now. Okay, maybe we can go to the second thing I wanted to show. I just kind of slowly go through the steps. That's going to be a very important thing for you as well. As long as you know the major goal of the broadcast, it doesn't matter what small things go wrong, you can still manage it. That said, things are definitely going to go wrong, so be sure to embrace the chaos. Sometimes people tend to be, especially in our positions, it can feel a little odd to make jokes or to laugh at problems. We can get a little tense especially when we encounter technical difficulties, especially this time of year with the pandemic. Don't do that. The easiest thing to do is to laugh at it. I promise you, your viewers know that you're live and they know that things can go wrong that have nothing to do with your competence, nothing to do with your level of preparation, and everything to do with just a roll of the dice. So if you can keep your cool and maybe make a few jokes about things, your audience will respect you, not only because there's a sense of camaraderie that you're experiencing the same kind of troubles they do, but also because you were able to keep it cool, whereas maybe they wouldn't be as cool about it. And then, of course, there are 5 videos here that link to our Facebook Live videos. You can come back and see things that we did and maybe see things that worked out really well where we actually adhered to our 5 tips, or you can see videos where we were still learning what those 5 tips were. And maybe if there's time afterwards, we'll come back and take a look at some of them. But the next thing we're going to talk about is metrics. And if I can get to the slide, and that we have Christy again.
All right. So before anything even happens with your Facebook Live event, what you want to do is create a buzz around the event. And we do this by just simply talking about it. Mention it ahead of time on your social media platforms. Talk about it with patrons. Talk about it with your staff. Encourage everybody to tell their friends about it. And just get the word out there that this is what you're going to be doing. So you can also promote it with a Facebook event. And when you create these events, I'm sure if you've on Facebook, you've seen them before. It allows somebody who's interested in the event or plans to attend for it to show up on their timeline so that all their friends and family can see it as well. And it helps reach people that may not follow your page already. Now, it's interesting to note, though, that these events, even though they can make one for Facebook Live, it doesn't link directly to your live feed. So come the time of the live feed and your broadcast, it's not going to, if they go to this event, it's only as a reminder and promotional purposes. It does not take them to the Facebook Live events. So that's something to tuck in the back of your mind. You can use your other social media platforms and just include a link to your Facebook Live event, and that way it'll send them over. Check with other faculty, staff, patrons, and see if they'll help you spread it on their social media platforms. Recruit members from your target audience. So if our target audience here is our college students, then we're going to ask some of our student staff, some of our regular patrons who have come to know us, and ask them if they'll please share it on their pages as well. So even though it's virtual, we can still advertise in-house with flyers and bookmarks and posters and that sort of thing. Be sure to include information about all of your social media events in your calendar, your email list, newsletters out, on your website, anything like that. So again, it's all about creating the buzz, and the more people see it and the more people come to expect you to do these types of events, they'll become more familiar with it and it won't seem new or odd, and they'll be ready to jump on board. So after the event, it's not over yet for marketing. You still want to continue to follow the live cast video. So as Tristan showed, after it's done, you can choose to post it, and that's a great option because then it's still out there. If somebody happened to miss it, they forgot about it, they were working, they couldn't view it, they can go back and see it, and they can also add comments and that sort of thing. So you want to continue to follow it. Make sure you answer any questions that come after the event itself. You can take the video and embed it on your website. You can link to it in other platforms and post it on YouTube even, which is a great site. It's a great partner site for this type of project because it's a great place for your videos to live and keep them organized and archive them, and it's easy for people to access later and come across them. So you want to continue again, just to follow up on those numbers and follow up on your patrons who may be involved in the video later. You don't have to respond to each and every one of the comments that are out there, but try to at least respond to each and every commenter. So because it's all about building the relationship that requires engagement, and from not just engagement from them to comment on your stuff, but for you to respond back. And try to avoid giving one word generic answers like, oh, thanks, and make it as personal as possible. Sometimes it's not possible, but just try. Don't forget to follow up with any requests for information, and don't be afraid to tag attendees in future similar events. So if somebody is very involved in one of our gaming sessions, then the next time we go to have a gaming session, we can tag them and make sure that they see, hey, we're having another one coming up, and it ensures that they will see it. So moving on to assessment, Facebook offers a lot of metrics and it can be overwhelming and a little tough to decide. So you need to sit down with your stakeholders, your team that's doing this Facebook Live, and decide which numbers are going to be important to you, and best monitor if you're reaching your goals or not. So are you trying to reach more people in your community? Are you trying to draw people to your profile page? Are you looking for more engagement with comments, likes, shares, that sort of thing? The top 3 that people usually follow are your views, your reach, and your impressions. So the difference between those is your page views are the number of times your page's profile have been viewed by people. Your reach is the number of people who saw any content from your page or about your page. And this metric is only estimated by Facebook. They can't guarantee it's accurate, but it gives you a rough idea. Impressions are the number of times that any content from your page or about your page entered onto a person's screen. So whether or not they already follow you, it showed up on a friend, they saw it on a friend's post or something, some sort, and it gives you an idea of how many people out there have become aware of your social media presence. So using these metrics, they're available as soon as you post the video to your page. They start tallying your numbers, and they're published in the post section of your insights. So you would want to click on that. And then there they can tell you the number of people that you reached, the number of post clicks from that video, the number of reactions, video views, how many people saw it, how many different people saw it. Maybe somebody came back and watched something twice. And then they also tell you how long those videos were viewed. Did they just come back and watch it for a few minutes? Did they watch it for 10 minutes? Was it just a quick 3-second, what are they doing? So that gives you some idea of some of the numbers and ways you can assess whether or not you've met your goal. And it'll help you also decide how to improve next time. So you can make adjustments moving forward, because this is all about building. People don't usually start broadcasting Facebook Live and immediately it takes off. It takes some time to build your audience again and let them know that you're there so that they know to keep coming back. And that is all that we have.
That's right. So that is the gist. So keep in mind, before you choose what your social media platform is, you need to consider what your audience is. That will lead you to the best platform. And then once you're there, you want to try and look at your live options. Once you get to your live options, you want to try and think of what content you're going to do. How you're actually going to go live will vary, of course, but we've given you a layout on how to do Facebook Live. And then you want to look at, keep in mind your marketing and your metrics for whatever that platform is. This is a huge unwieldy topic. I think Christy and I started off with a very simple idea of we're going to show people how to go to Facebook Live, and then we're like, this could actually be like a dozen presentations. We're in trouble. So we are more than happy to answer any questions now or in the future once you start getting into Facebook Live. Whether it's about something we covered here or it's about something maybe tangential or something that you would like a little more depth on that we started to cover but didn't because sake of time. I'm actually kind of jazzed. We finished in like 30 minutes. Every time we practiced this, we were closer to 50. So I'm really glad we were able to get through it at one time. Does anyone have any questions for us? If not, we can always go back and watch one of the videos, and you can look at one of our live feeds and we can critique it, and you guys can decide if we were following our own tips and how we weren't following our own tips.
Tristan, I think that would actually be really fun to do. I do have one question. How are you doing Facebook Live videos like right now or like during the summer, maybe when the library was closed, or if you don't have students? I'm not exactly sure if you have students in the library or not right now.
We absolutely have students in the library, not as many as we're used to, which is sad, but we do have students here. Even though all the way back to March, probably our first Facebook Live was actually probably in April. But since April, we've been trying to go to Facebook Live on a regular basis. One of the advantages, because it is so simple to hop on there, is that you don't need a like studio space. All you need is a space that has a computer and then a mic and a webcam, and that's really all it is. Right now, our primary go-to for Facebook Live are weekly video game streams. We do it Thursday at 2 o'clock, and we fortunately do have our makerspace, which unfortunately is not getting a whole lot of use right now because we're still trying to staff it. But because of that, there's a computer in there that we're able to use for our broadcast. So we get in there and we play video games from 2 to 4 on Thursday on our Facebook page, and anybody can come by and see that. And it's gotten a lot of success that way, not only by getting people to come and watch it, but also helping us connect with other faculty and staff and some students just who find out that we're doing video games come by and watch us.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, and if you want to share one of your live videos now, that would be perfect too.
I'm gonna go back and see if I can slide back to this earlier slides. Yeah, if anyone has any questions in the meantime, feel free to voice them to us. We'll see if we can do that. I'm curious, are we most interested in watching which of these 5? The COVID-19 masks, things going wrong, poetry and prose, game night, factitious? Because they all kind of highlight different things you should and shouldn't be doing. I think my personal favorite is the COVID-19 mask, just because it's also one of the easiest ones to show off. So I think I'm going to click that one, unless there's a strong pull for something else. Whoop, there it goes. PowerPoint tries to connect to the server. Oh no, it's opening it in Explorer. This will be interesting. Okay. All right, so this is also a good example too. Explorer has no idea, or Edge, excuse me, Edge has no idea that I have a Facebook account, so it's not logging me in, but I can still watch. And I think I can even interact with it for comments and things like that. That's another good reason to go with Facebook Live, because it will allow you to interact with audiences that may not be all that tech savvy. They can still do this. So this is the start of the video. Yes, that's me. I'm sorry. This is me looking around because I'm not sure at this stage if it's live or not, because we're still getting used to it. I'm not sure if I think it has audio for everyone.
I cannot hear any audio.
Aw, let me see if I can change the settings here. If not, that will not help us much. It might be in my screen sharing. Give me just a moment. Dun, dun, dun. Screen. Yep, that one. And then I can come back here to do this. Click that. It doesn't look like, I don't see an additional option for, oh wait, maybe up here. Presenter, control, drawing tools. Give me just a moment here. I am less familiar with GoToMeeting, but I think I can figure it out. Actually, I don't unfortunately see an option to make sure that it's sharing the audio from the video. Because I can see it showing. Yeah, I can see it showing off the video feed. It doesn't look like it's showing off it doesn't look like it's showing off the actual audio for the video itself, which is unfortunate. That means, oh, I'm glad we did not rely on showing off audio clips, because that means I can't show you the audio clip, unfortunately. But you will all be able to do that on your own if you'd like. You can go back and click those links and it will show you the video in full. The gist of this video is me trying to show people how to make COVID-19 masks without any sewing or skill. It's literally what's called making masks with no sewing and no skill. I walk through like trying to use a bandana. Here, we can still do it without audio. It's gonna work. And you can see it even has captions on it down here. And I try to use the mask and I make fun of myself because I can't really use it. And then I try and use a washcloth. Also think of, if you want to think of like things like making sure that your look and your tone match everything. Obviously, I'm trying to be a little more official since this is talking about making a mask, or COVID-19 mask. I'm trying to have some level of authority there. But also, I'm making it clear that I'm not a medical professional. I say that at the very beginning, and I'm still trying to have some fun with this by having a Batman washcloth as opposed to having like a generic blue one or something. And then we go through, and I'm being satirical as I try and explain things and talk about my ability to sew. And then I think I actually walk through the process of trying to cut up a t-shirt. This is something I'd practiced beforehand, so I knew roughly how it was going to go. This is something I definitely should have practiced beforehand. And you can see more of that here as I'm literally trying to explain different things. Also, as this is going along, you can see over here, there's people in the chat, they're talking to me, and I'm doing my best to either answer them directly during the feed. I'm talking to them live. If you have a team that can work with you, it's great to have one person monitor the chat while the other person focuses on the broadcast, and then that person can talk out loud to chat, and the other person can respond inside of chat. You can always go back and respond to chat later on after the video is done. In addition to talking to them during the broadcast. As long as you're talking to them during the broadcast, though, you're fine. Then we do it this way. And it's more of me trying to walk them through and explain how to do things. And you can see here, this is literally just me filming at my home office. That's all this is. And we can close this one out. And whoops, go back, got a little excited. We can also do this one here. So if you want to see something that's more complicated, we're actually doing like video games. This one will load up here. Make it nice and big. And one of the things we'd worked on after doing this for a couple times is we wanted to have a intro card, or a title card is what I would call it, at the start of the stream. That way people who are trying to log on ahead of time to watch the stream, so if the stream starts at, say, this one I think started at 7 o'clock, so basically at 6:45 or 6:50, somewhere in there, we tried to go live and have this screen up and running. That way people who were expecting us to go live knew that we were about to go live. This also helps us out. So instead of me staring at the screen awkwardly for 10, 15 seconds, as you saw in the last video, this card's up there and I can have a few seconds to myself to tell if we're going live or not. And this broadcast is especially long because it's several of us playing video games. And if you watch the first 20 minutes or so, you will see another example of us, specifically me, not practicing all the things ahead of time, because we have shown off streams within streams before and it had worked just fine. But when we tried to do this one, I was showing off a stream within a stream while someone else was watching my stream. And that created a wonderful audio feedback loop that was actually really difficult to solve for the first 20 minutes. But then we got that fixed. And here we go. We can see one of our access services specialist, Dean James, is over here. You've got his wonderful background with all the collectibles and things in it. Let's see if I can maximize this screen. And there's him playing the video game. We can skip further ahead. He starts playing a different game a little further on. And here's another issue we ran into: network errors. This is why it's helpful to be in a team. So while Dean is actually doing the stream, I am doing my best to share the stream through our Facebook page. And for whatever reason, we had numerous technical errors that we have not had since. So I'm assuming there was some update between Facebook and Twitch that they were still working on. And it was a mess. But I was there and I had to be Johnny on the spot. So every time I saw that network error, I had to hurry and refresh the page and remaximize the video. And it mostly worked. Yeah. And you can see he's even be able to move his screen. This is the benefit of having that third-party software, is that he can have his video or screen being shared, and he can also have his webcam up. If you're just using Facebook Live, you can't do that. If you're just using Facebook Live, you are limited to either your screen being shared or your video, and you cannot switch between the two of them during the broadcast. If you want to switch, you have to cancel the broadcast and restart it, which is a bit of a pain. The more you get with Facebook, the more you get into Facebook Live, the more you will want third-party software to get the most out of it. And then we can skip further ahead, right around here. And this is me trying to play, but you can see because I'm on Zoom and because I'm also trying to run the other streams while I'm running my stream, I don't have my webcam up, which is not ideal. You almost always want to have a face up on the screen. Even if you are not comfortable with a video, you could just have a raw picture of you up there. That way they know who it is that's speaking. Because again, you want to design your broadcast not only for the audience that you have developed, but you also want to design your broadcast for new people who are going to show up and within 3 seconds or so trying to decide if they're going to stay with your broadcast or not. Christy mentioned our Facebook analytics earlier. One of the things you can look at for your videos is how many 3-second views you have. The reason they focus on 3-second views is because that's about how long it takes for someone to decide if they're going to stay and watch your broadcast or if they're just going to leave. So you want to make sure you have that face up there. That way they recognize who they're talking to and if it's somebody they recognize or if it's a personality that they're interested in, especially if you have multiple people running your Facebook Live like we do. We have, Christy and I are kind of like overseeing the thing as a whole, but our hosts can include me. We've had another librarian be a host. Dean has been a host. We're trying to incorporate other hosts as well. We're trying to incorporate students as hosts as well, because they will be just a more attractive host for our audience. More interesting host. And finally, we get into actually playing the game. And I'm providing commentary, trying to explain how we're doing these things, trying to add a more informative element or more expositional element to what we're doing as opposed to just playing video games. And then later on, we get into playing Fall Guys. And this is another host we've got. Joel is over here. And the whole time we're doing these things, we've got in chat, if you can see over here to the right, you have people talking. We are talking to each other. You also have people from viewers and things talking. We were able to connect with another faculty member this way. We had a student viewing at one point. These are all just different things we can do. And one of the best things about doing these videos, this is something else that Christy mentioned a little bit earlier, is that after the live feed is over and it saves and then shares your video, you can still get engagement that way. Because if you may be going live like we do Thursday 2 to 4, there's going to be students who are in classes who cannot see the video then because they're in class. That said, after 4 o'clock when it goes to our archive, they can still go back and watch it later on, and that will still show up in the metrics. That will still show up in the assessment that you can do later on to see if the video content is working, or if your maybe your performance isn't doing all that well, or if you just need to change the time frame, because if you're getting a whole lot of engagement after the fact, then maybe your video is not at the right timing. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't want to get too far into the other videos without having audio. I will say my favorite one of all of these, I think the easiest one to show off is the COVID-19 masks one, but my favorite one is probably the things go wrong, just because I had practiced that one ahead of time. I literally practiced it 5 minutes before the broadcast went live and everything was working. I then go live and try and show off our journal finder, and it breaks entirely. So that's about a 30-minute video of me trying every possible option to get journal finder to work, and none of it works. So it's kind of like the most possible things going wrong of things. And I think I handled it pretty well. So that's one of the reasons I really like that video. But if you want a fun video, check out Factitious, where Allison Faye and I try to play the video game Factitious, where you try to figure out if fake news is actually fake or not, because we had a lot of fun with that. And that was an example where we were able to incorporate guests into the thing. We had planned it out in advance, and we knew what problems were going to arise. We both kind of set the mood and the tone, because we were both, obviously, we had that kind of tone where we were willing to mock things that looked silly when it came to fake news, but we also came at it from a perspective of trying to understand it a little bit more. And then when things showed up that looked kind of crazy, we were both more than happy to embrace that bit of crazy, embrace the chaos. Are there any questions? I'm sure everyone's also kind of excited to go on. This can also be a lot to deal with. In my experience dealing with Facebook Live, it's helpful to have a solid foundation up front, but it's really one of those things you just have to tinker with. You have to kind of get in there and explore, just like you're doing with most of your research, and don't be afraid to get things wrong up front, even things wrong in front of a live audience. It's okay. It's your first couple of videos. It's going to happen. It's going to go wrong. People understand that. The upside is that early on, you're not going to have a big audience anyway, so most people aren't even going to know that you're doing things horribly wrong.
And just to tail off of that, one of the studies that we looked at in preparing for all of this noted that it takes about a year to really build a steady, strong following when you're doing these live broadcasts. So don't be disappointed. Even if 2 months, 3 months down the road, there's just nobody watching or tuning in, because the more that you're out there and the more they get used to it and they come across it, and it catches on and it builds, and it's not always a fast build. Sometimes it's a slow one, but don't get disappointed.
Absolutely, that's a really good point. A lot of the videos that I had in here talking about the content, a lot of the people who were doing these videos, some of them were professionals ahead of time, like the people in this role-playing group. But most of them, these two in particular, come to mind. Same thing with the guy with Bobish, the guy behind Binging with Bobish. They were doing this for a solid year before they had any kind of audience, any kind of consistent audience. And it was 3 to 5 years before they were able to turn that into a large enough, consistent enough audience where that could be what they did as a profession. So definitely don't do that. You cannot do this for 2 or 3 months and then be like, okay, well, we haven't had a single student talk, or we've only had 5 faculty be excited about this. It's not worth doing. That may be the case depending if you have other better projects to work on. But if you intend to have a live stream broadcast feature for your library in the long term, you're going to want to stick with this for at least that year. And you want to put out as much content as you can on a regular basis during that year.
All right, so I don't see any questions, but thank you, Tristan and Christine. This was awesome. I do social media, so I'm going to definitely have to take some of these tips and try Facebook Live. I'm sure a lot of us are excited too, but yeah, thank you so much for talking about this.
It's my pleasure. If anyone ever has any questions later on, feel free to talk to Christy and I. Will be more than happy to work with you on your Facebook stuff in the future. You as well, Sarah.
Thank you. All right, have a good day, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Thank y'all for coming.
Take care.